Hello and thanks for checking out TheChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hello MJ friends, hope you're doing well. So we had news at 2:45 p.m. Eastern or 2:43 p.m. Eastern today. Trump putting out a tweet that Sessions got the boot. That's bullish for the MJ space. Sessions was an attorney general in the U.S. who was very negative MJ and just a Debbie Downer, and he's famously quoted, good people don't smoke marijuana. So he's out. He's been blocking votes. It's progress forward for the potential clearing the space, changing the sentiment in the U.S. It's just a step forward. So we're still looking for other changes to occur, ideally removing it from Schedule 1. That would be a big step forward to allow the banks to get involved in the sector. And there's other little facets where, the House now being Democrat majority, we're looking to try and get some of these bills passed. But it's a bullish spike in momentum that we saw at the end of the day. And it completely changed the chart setups, obviously, because news does that. And so we have to adjust to that. But it was obviously the kind of news that saw significant follow through in the short term. And the question is, how much follow through are we going to get? And is this move going to continue into tomorrow? So what I want to point out now is looking at the SPY weekly time frame. And I highly suggest watching the video I'm going to put out on SPY later tonight at the end of the day, because I'm going to look at a little bit longer term perspective. And now is where we want to be talking about hedging long-term portfolios, whether it's with the S&P 500, long-term retirement funds that you have, or your MJ positions. Now is a good time to be looking to hedge those as well. So what I mean by that is the weekly time frame for SPY is giving us the monthly higher low that we were looking for. And we're looking for the same setup that we saw in February in terms of an equilibrium. When you see a huge range and a new price discovery, you look for equilibriums to form. And that's exactly what we're getting. We're going to scout a lower high on SPY sooner rather than later. At this point, we've already bounced well over the halfway mark, a couple dollars over the halfway mark from the high to the low of this move. So it's a significant bounce. We're looking for the lower high sooner rather than later. Then we're going to look to pull back and form a higher low compared to the low of the dump. And we have a perfect model to be watching from back in February. And we're going to be looking for something similar. I don't expect it to take as long and as drawn out in terms of the months that it took, but I expect to be in this pattern into the end of the year, and I'm going to look for a weekly break of an equilibrium on SPY to dictate direction and momentum to start 2019. So what does that mean if you have a position or a portfolio that is all MJ based? It means you are subject to this market strength. And you might be saying, well, there hasn't been a SPY correlation lately. Maybe not on a day-to-day basis, but look at this chart. All-time high, dump to the low, significant bounce. You look at the weekly timeframes for Canadian MJ, it's the same thing. All-time high, significant dump, significant bounce. Looking for a weekly lower high on CGC. TLRY, we're looking for a lower high compared to 178. ACB, we're looking for the lower high compared to 16. So you get the idea. Everybody is seeing a very similar pattern that is setting up for these weekly equilibriums, and I expect to stay in these weekly equilibriums unless more significant news keeps coming, but I do expect to stay in this equilibrium through the end of the year. So if you are in a long-term position and we're looking for a weekly lower high to be established, there are multiple ways that you can hedge your portfolio. Let's say you have $100,000 and $90,000 of that is in MJ stocks. With that 10%, that $10,000, you can either short CGC or another individual name. You could buy puts looking further out. You could short the S&P 500. Any of those three things will mean that you are going to make money if we set a weekly lower high, which is the most likely scenario, and then pull back to form a higher low. You will lose money in your portfolio as your positions consolidate, but you will be gaining money on that short position. So that's just something to think about, because I couldn't even imagine having an entire portfolio MJ with these volatile swings. I mean, I can't imagine looking at your portfolio and seeing 10% down in one day like we saw a couple weeks ago. That's just something that I will never, ever subject myself to, but this is a way that you can hedge against that from happening. So we're keeping an eye out for a lower high to form on the weekly time frame. The clearest signal that lower highs are forming are when we see the daily uptrend lost. But at this point, we haven't even formed a daily high or low. So the next time we consolidate on the daily. We're going to look for a daily higher low for Canadian MJ, and it's going to require a higher low, lower high, lower low to confirm a loss of this uptrend. But at that point, we're going to be far off from that weekly lower high being set. So this is the kind of scenario where I personally would want to see a little bit more follow through from this bullish reaction of sessions, but then I would start scaling in to my hedge position, looking for the weekly lower high to be set sooner rather than later, and not necessarily waiting for that daily trend change to take place. Something else before we get into it, although I kind of already did, we've got our storefront up for now, and it's Do Good Things. It's a nonprofit registered in Canada, and every dollar of profit that we make on these clothes, we're going to be donating. There's also cryptocurrency addresses to donate to, and what we're looking to do is just compile a whole bunch of money, and then once or twice a year, we'll vote as a community as to what we're going to do with it, and it's just a good way to continue spreading around that good karma. And if you are successful clicking buttons and manifesting dollars, it is nice to spread that around. So we've got basic clothing at this point. We'll be adding to it, but t-shirts and sweatshirts. And funny story is my partner Jason went to the bank in Canada to open the account for the nonprofit today, and they turned down the nonprofit because it is taking funds from cryptocurrency, which is as absurd as you can get. But we're going to have to figure that out and figure out an alternative. So check it out if you're interested, dogoodthings.chartguys.com. I'll put the link in the description, and we will do fun things with it, with the social media. I want to see you guys and gals wearing these as you adventure and road trip around the country and travel, and tag yourself in different places, and we'll give away courses and stuff, and we'll do social media in that way. But it should be good. This is just the start, step one of the Do Good Things movement. And now that we're registered and we're going to start collecting these funds, we'll probably kick it off with a donation from the Chart Guys ourselves. And then I'll probably eventually, just designate one day a month where I say whatever profit I make today, I'll donate to the cause. So one more thing before we get into the individual technical analysis. Let's make sure I'm recording. Comparison. So this news came out at 12:43. First off, I believe there was a news leak. I believe that Canadian MJ, the entire sector ran, it was 50 minutes before the tweet came out. The entire MJ sector ran with Canada here. And everybody in the chat room, we were all looking at each other like, okay, what's going on? This is newsworthy volume. Something's up right now. And we couldn't find anything. Nothing ever came of it. And then that move came back. But then less than an hour later, this tweet comes out and we see raging bulls. There's no doubt in my mind that there was leaked information and that people loaded before the tweet and the news came out. That being said, there's something else that we can gather from this chart. The tweet came out. This is in the background here. This candlestick is CGC, and the real candlesticks are MedMen. I usually talk about how the OTC is a disadvantage for traders because of the liquidity, because of the slippage, because the market makers are slow at filling orders, and that's why the CGC trading on the NYSE has been a great advantage. There's bots all over the NYSE and all over the NASDAQ. They reacted to this tweet before humans could read the tweet. They're scanning for keywords, and they are buying or selling based on that. So any article that comes out, and I actually just got, this is a side note, but I just got a thesis written by somebody about how YouTubers' videos were affecting the cryptocurrency market by being distributed. And through all his research, which is more research than anybody else has likely done, he had conclusion and proof that yes, there is brief short-term reactions from bots to these videos. So I'm looking forward to reading that more in depth, but bottom line is these bots reacted to this tweet on CGC instantly. Look at the reaction to MedMen. 1 minute went by, 2 minutes went by, bull break. So I entered MedMen as soon as I read that tweet, and I got in on this break of $6 because the bots were not on this name. And the reason the bots were not on it is because it's OTC, and it's much easier to have bots in a liquid environment with high dollar volume comparative to these names. So that's just another way that the OTC USMJ market is underdeveloped comparative to Canada. Again, we have big money, we have bots and algos trading Canada. We don't have that in the US right now when we're on the OTC exchange. So that was a 2-minute advantage. I did swing my MedMen position. Obviously, in hindsight, would have rather have locked in profit before the end of the day consolidation, but still green in the trade and just watching to see if we can break a key resistance level tomorrow. It's a pretty low risk trade, and I'll go over that when we get to MedMen. So what we're looking at for CGC and all Canadian MJ right now is, well, first things first, we're looking for weekly lower highs. Just want to be on the same page that is the most likely scenario unless we get major news deals and investment from major companies. I do believe that's what's going to happen. So then we look at the daily time frame and say the bulls are still in full control. And we got the signal that consolidation was starting today with the loss of the hourly uptrend in some of these names. And then, of course, news comes out and news trumps the chart, no pun intended, where we were looking for an hourly equilibrium. It looked great to about to be setting up. And then that news was pretty much just a buy now news signal in terms of the amount of dollar volume that came in reaction to that. But where do we stand heading into tomorrow? We're going to be watching first things first. Can the bulls break the high of today and see continuation first thing tomorrow morning to give confidence of follow through? And as soon as we broke this resistance level for 42.43 on CGC, we then had a lack of resistance for a long way, and the bulls are really enjoying that lack of resistance. So we're looking at 46.74. Can the bulls break that first thing on Monday? And after that, we're looking at 47.83, and then all the way up to 51.21. So psychological levels after 47.83. If we cannot break resistance, or even if we do break resistance, we know hourly consolidation is going to be needed sooner rather than later. But we know that it's very likely that healthy hourly consolidation to give us a higher low will be coming first. In order to lose this uptrend at this point, we are likely going to need to see consolidation to form a higher low, inability to break to a higher high, and then a loss of the uptrend. And losing the hourly uptrend will be the indication that daily consolidation is coming, and then we can assume a healthy daily higher low will come. So it's applying what we anticipate on one time frame and then zooming out to the next time frame, and we're looking for the same thing. So we're going to be watching, can we break resistance first thing? If we can, that's great. We'll note volume and see how much follow through the bulls get. When we do begin consolidating, we will look for a higher low compared to 42.12, and we'll see how much consolidation we get. What does the bear volume look like? And take it there from there, one candlestick at a time. But for every individual name, it's about the high of today, first thing tomorrow. TLRY, just a raging bull today. Anything under 178.85 is a lower high. And TLRY, more than anybody, has the potential to break the weekly resistance rather than an equilibrium. And that's just because it's so thinly traded, and days like today can happen. A huge day today. Look at the volume that poured in, and it was just news pre-market, a bullish Canadian MJ environment, and then Jeff Sessions news just rocketed another move to the upside. And it's the same thing. Once we broke 127.80, no resistance nearby. After 127.80 is 144. That's a $17 move, over 10% before you get to the next resistance. And that's exactly where we started slowing down. 144.06 was resistance, and we topped out at 142.84. So at this point, same thing. We're due for hourly consolidation. Absolutely. The last support level was established at 109.19. But we know when we get that hourly consolidation that it's likely going to be healthy and form a higher low. So when we lose the hourly uptrend, we zoom out to the daily and look for a daily higher low to be established. But first things first, can the bulls break 142.84 tomorrow first thing to get that continuation? ACB weekly high time frame, absolutely looking for a lower high, much more likely to form a lower high on ACB than we are on TLRY. From where we stand on ACB, we need a 60% move for that resistance to be tested. On TLRY, if we see a 60% move, we are going to see a move up over 220. So that's going to put us well above that resistance. So percentage-wise, it takes a lot more for ACB to get to resistance than it does TLRY. So very likely for an hour or a weekly lower high to form and an equilibrium on this chart. Daily time frame, first things first tomorrow. Bulls have to break 1065 to look for continuation. Then we've got 1075, 11, and 1129 as the next resistance levels. Hourly higher low to keep the bulls in control. 958 was pretty much a double bottom, and bulls had a beautiful response off of that double bottom thanks to the news. And any consolidation that we see, we will look for a higher low compared to 958. So essentially, the bulls are very comfortable in the entire sector as we head into tomorrow, because worst case scenario, we look for consolidation on the hourly and a higher low to form. APHA, weekly time frame, anything under 21 is a lower high. And again, we need about a 20+% move to get up there. So we're looking for a weekly lower high to form. The bulls tomorrow need to see a break of 1760 first thing. 18 and 1863 are the next resistance levels after that. Hourly support. Last one was 1603. So again, another one that broke hourly support, but news saved this chart and disregarded that pattern, which certainly is the case when there's significant news. So anything above 1603 will be a higher low. Again, worst case scenario tomorrow morning, we're looking for hourly higher lows to be established in Canadian MJ. Cron, weekly time frame, anything under 13, we're looking for the lower high. The daily chart, bulls have to break 995 and 10 psychological first thing. Next level is 1132 after that. And the hourly uptrend, higher low established at 895. Anything above 895 is a healthy hourly higher low. You can see how I can just accelerate the analysis on these names because they're so similarly correlated, where I spend a significant amount of time on the sector leader CGC, but once I visually and mentally wrap my head around the patterns that I'm looking at, what I'm expecting on the weekly, what I'm expecting on the hourly, how that will translate into what the daily looks like, I then just apply that to all these other names, and the numbers are different and the setups are slightly different, but overall you can see how much faster it is to do this analysis once you already have put the work in. So for Cron, same thing as everybody else. Can we break the high of today first thing tomorrow? USMJ, names like KSHB significantly followed through with the news. Brief consolidation. Look at this 4-hour chart, bull flag, and then that bull news giving that reaction. The daily chart's taking out all kinds of resistances. We took out 628, the top of this move, 636, 642. So we broke all of these resistances, and now on the weekly time frame, we're just looking up at a trend change. So high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, higher low, trend change. So it turned from a downtrend into an equilibrium and then the bull break. And the weekly time frame now, 693, 740, and 851. A lack of resistance has KSHB positioned very well. If we get any kind of more bullish news, we are going to be looking at blue sky breakouts on names like this, where if any kind of bull volume comes in, we don't have a lot of resistance. So keep an eye out for news in the USMJ sector because a lot of these names are positioned well with a lack of resistance. Obviously, forgot to mention, we've got a lot of Canadian MJ earnings coming out next week. I believe we've got TLRY, CGC, and Cron, I think are three of the major names. I might have mixed up one of those. Let me know if I did. But KSHB, significant bull move at the end of the day. Same thing on the hourly. So pretty much the same setup as everybody that we were just looking at. Can the bulls break the high of today, first thing tomorrow, for continuation by getting over 670? And if not, we're going to look for an hourly higher low to form compared to 606 to keep those bulls in control. And it's different setup on the weekly. A lot of USMJ names have a different weekly setup. So that's important to note as well. So MedMen couldn't break resistance. Look at how much different this daily chart is. KSHB, we broke the top of the bounce at this point, got over 628, and saw a huge follow through, about a 7% move after that resistance. MedMen could not break resistance. We double topped out, 634 and 630. Couldn't break that resistance, and then the consolidation at the end of the day was more significant due to that inability to break resistance. So that is a red flag. Obviously, in hindsight, if I could have chosen one or the other, I would have chosen KSHB because it was able to break that resistance. But that's just the luck of the draw. The setup was very similar, and depending on which name you choose, sometimes that's where luck is involved to a certain degree. Saw some gains in MedMen, but obviously KSHB would have seen more significant gains. So what we're looking at is a tightening range now on the daily. If bulls cannot break 634 first thing, we're going to be looking at a tightening 4-hour equilibrium because we'll have the high, low, double top, and then we'll look for a higher low compared to 551 and a 4-hour range to continue tightening for the rest of the week. So that's another one to be watching. Again, I can't cover all the names. A lot of names had significant bullish reactions. There's other names that are positioned like KSHB with a lack of resistance on the longer term time frames. Pretty much the major Canadian MJ names have their weekly ranges looking to be established. The USMJ names have a different weekly setup, so it's a completely different animal in how to chart them and as to what we're going to be expecting. But the bottom line is with everybody, hourly uptrends are intact with the bulls keeping full control. When we lose the hourly uptrends, we look for healthy daily consolidation to form a daily higher low. And then when we lose the daily uptrend, we will say, all right, our weekly lower high has been set. Our equilibrium on Canadian MJ major names is continuing to play out. And that's that. So I hope you all continue to do good things. Feel free to donate to TheChartGuys, or I should say dogoodthings.chartguys.com, or get yourself some swag and tag it on social media. Hope you had a good night. Congrats to the Bulls if you were watching along. And that's the kind of thing where, I don't have Twitter up, and I never would have saw that tweet. I would have saw volume come out of nowhere. I would have known there was news, but I wouldn't have known what that news was. And just having a team, someone posted it. It's 6:44, 1 minute after the tweet, and then multiple other people posted it within 90 seconds of that tweet coming out. So lots of end of the day bull moves. and we'll see if that momentum can continue into tomorrow. The market only had an hour and 15 minutes to digest that news. The question is, are these articles going to circulate after hours, and is that going to lead to money coming in tomorrow morning to continue this bull move, which is why it's important to see the bulls break the high of today first thing tomorrow. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.